Is it just me, or does it seem like people are hell-bent on running headfirst into a nightmare dystopian future? WorldCoin was just launched, which is a cryptocurrency started by Sam Altman of OpenAI, which doubles as a digital passport to prove you are a real human by having your eyeball scanned by one of their ID orbs. And the cherry on top is that this will be used to facilitate universal basic income in the future funded by artificial intelligence. This is so crazy, it sounds like something that ChatGPT would have recommended if you would have fed it Aldous Huxley's books and George Orwell's books and told it to invent a cryptocurrency that would plunge us into a world created by those two authors. While going to worldcoin.org, you find a brief description of what WorldCoin aims to do. Number one, it's the ambition of creating a new identity. This is done by in-person iris scans with these orbs that they have sent out around the world to collect people's biometric data. And just in case you think that absolutely nobody could be stupid enough to get tricked into doing this voluntarily, Sam Altman posted a video on his Twitter just a few days ago, which shows literally lines of people for blocks, and this is happening all around the world, people lining up in droves to get their eyeballs scanned voluntarily. This biometric data then gets stored on the blockchain as a way to verify that you are a real person and not a bot or an AI pretending to be you. It also serves as an ID marker so that if this is ever used to facilitate universal basic income, stimulus payments, anything else that a government may want to know information about who you are specifically and track you personally, they'll be able to know exactly who is who. They also state that WorldCoin is a financial network owned by everyone. It's interesting, and it reminds me of that quote in the movie The Incredibles where he says, I'm trying to give everybody superpowers because in a world where everybody is super, nobody is. It reminds me of that because by saying everyone owns this financial network, that's another way of saying nobody owns it. But this is a little bit more deceptive than that because it's kind of like public property. It's something owned by the state. It's not owned by everybody. You don't own that park that you go to. You don't own the national parks. You don't own and you can't control that public property owned by everybody. The state owns it. The state controls it, and the state allows you to use it if and when they deem it necessary. That is government ownership, state control. And anytime you claim that something is owned by everybody, it's a lie. There's always someone behind the scenes with true ownership, true control. They say if successful, they believe WorldCoin could drastically increase economic opportunity. Now we'll get into the monetary side of this in a moment, but everything about WorldCoin demonstrates a deep misunderstanding, a backwards misunderstanding of the way that money and economies function. They say it could scale a reliable solution for distinguishing humans from AI online while preserving privacy. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I don't understand the technology well enough to see how you can reliably say that this is a human and that is an AI bot while at the same time preserving privacy. It seems to me like those must be at odds with each other because either I have access to be able to see who you are to prove that you're a human, or you have privacy and I can't see that. I'm not really sure how you can have both of those things at the same time. What I imagine this is that they do have all the information, so you don't have any privacy from them. And they just have some walls built so that somebody who isn't supposed to have access to that information can't get access to it. Which is probably why in WorldCoin's privacy policy, it says that the data may be passed to subcontractors and it could be accessed by governments and authorities. It also says it takes steps to mitigate risks and uses encryption to stop unauthorized access. Listen, the ability for a hacker or a person with malicious intent to access your data is a real risk. And it's good that they're doing what they can to try and stop that. But sometimes those people with the malicious intent are governments. And seeing as how a government is an entity with a legal monopoly on violence, it stands to reason that a world coin, which collects the biometric data on every single user, built partly with the function of universal basic income to create an entirely dependent population on the state, might be something that governments would want to come in at some point and control. If enough people sign up for this, that would be something that a government, any government with any malicious intent, might want to use for themselves. On their website, they go on to say that WorldCoin could enable global democratic processes, which sounds a heck of a lot like a one world government to me, and eventually show a potential path to AI-funded UBI. Now, I like what Naval Ravikant says about universal basic income and artificial intelligence, that universal basic income is a non-solution to a non-problem. AI is a leap forward in terms of technology, and it will be a leap forward in terms of the progress and the wealth that humanity can build. But just like every technological advancement throughout history, it is something that allows us to get more for less. It increases our leverage and allows us to create more wealth for the same amount of human input. AI is not something to be feared. It is not something to be avoided. It is not something to be fought, and it is definitely not something to try and regulate away. And posing universal basic income as the solution to this is stoking unnecessary fear and pushing people towards a solution that will create a citizenry of slaves, nations that are absolutely dependent on the state. Instead of being free, sovereign individuals who are responsible and capable to produce for themselves, you create a people who are at all times left with zero choice but to do exactly whatever the state forces them to do, because their survival is reliant and dependent on the state. That's what universal basic income does. UBI should be feared. It is not a solution to AI, which is not something that should be feared. Yet, as a Reuters article points out, this is not dissuading people from signing up for WorldCoin, but instead they are joining because of things like being intrigued or just for fun. And in an ironic twist, this individual who said he was taking part declined to give his full name for privacy reasons. What? You just let the orb scan your eyeballs. Do you not see the irony here? Ali, a 22-year-old chemical engineering student, told his brother about it and said, "It's free money. Would you like to come with me to get it?" Now, thankfully, this is not yet happening in the United States, one of the rare circumstances where you get a positive symptom from burdensome regulatory frameworks. Around the world, they can receive their universal basic income payment from WorldCoin for signing up, but not in the US, although they are trying to push that for the future. One other concern with this is how the ownership of these coins may be used in the future, what benefits they have, whether you have voting rights or you can have any say in what the blockchain unfolds like in the future. Any changes that are made, any functionality. The problem with that in the United States is that essentially then it's functioning as a security, that those tokens are operating like shares that give you an ownership and a controlling stake that allow you to vote and make decisions. This would then be regulated by the SEC as a security. You could have some of the big problems that we're seeing with some of the other exchanges and some of the other cryptocurrencies right now. And as if that all wasn't enough, yet another bad sign about this is one of the early investors, Sam Bankman-Fried. That's right, the guy who stole billions with the fraudulent FTX was one of the early investors in WorldCoin. But thankfully, it is receiving some pushback from some big voices. One of them being Jack, founder of Twitter and formerly Square, now known as Block, who is a big Bitcoin advocate, said at no time should a corporation or state own any part of the global financial system. It does seem as if this is something created by some mastermind Bond villain behind the scenes pulling strings on puppets, and at the right time is going to just come along and snap it up and being able to use it for his evil purposes. So here's to hoping that adoption craters, the experiment fails, and in a few years nobody even remembers the word WorldCoin. Even the name, could they have come up with something that was more dystopian? Ridiculous.